This Sunday on Close Up, we have a rematch in the 1st Congressional District. Frank Guinta and Carol Shea Porter are here. So what is the top issue or issues heading into this race? Morning, everyone. I'm Josh McKelvin. Thanks for joining us. In the 1st Congressional District, we have kind of a role reversal from 2010. Frank Guinta is the incumbent, while Carol Shea Porter is trying to get the job back as a challenger. And while one recent poll suggests that she's got the momentum, Congressman Guinta isn't buying it. James Pendle sat down with him to discuss this race and the business at hand in Congress.
Well, Congressman Guinta, thank you so much for coming back to Close Up. No matter if you win or you lose in November, one issue you're going to have to deal with is the fiscal cliff. And as you know, if Congress does not act to put some pressure into to reduce the national debt, there's going to be significant tax increases and significant cuts, both domestic and when it comes to the defense industry. So what are you going to do to make sure that we do not go over this fiscal cliff?
Well, President Clinton and President Obama have both made statements that you don't raise taxes in a recession. So I agree with those statements. The first thing we need to do is extend all of the existing tax rates for everybody. We have passed that in the House of Representatives. We're awaiting action in the Senate. Secondly, relative to sequestration, which affects not just defense, but also health care, we have proposed replacement cuts, a menu of replacement cuts in the House that exceed the amount of money that we need to replace it. Sent that off to the Senate. We're awaiting action in the Senate. We have heard in the past week or so that the Senate is now interested in discussing this and has an intention of trying to fix this in the lame duck. So it's unfortunate that we're waiting until the lame duck because we have passed solutions in the House, but I'd rather have it passed in the lame duck than not at all.
So am I hearing you correctly that you will support no tax increases whatsoever?
We should not have tax hikes in a recession. Again, President Obama has said that. President Clinton has said that. Many economists are noting that, particularly Ernst & Young report that said if we enact what the president has actually proposed in raising the top 2 rates, we would see approximately 1 million jobs lost. You would see the GDP go from 1.7 to 1.3. That's already outdated because the Q2 numbers have been changed. We actually have already seen the 1.7 GDP growth reduced down to 1.3. So this study, I think, would bring it under. This study would now show that it would bring growth under 1% if you enact those tax hikes. And according to the president, those tax hikes raise $70 billion. Doesn't solve the problem. We've got a $1.1 trillion deficit. You've got a $16 trillion debt. So I would ask, if you do actually pass those tax hikes, and you get the $70 billion in revenue, as you've stated, then what's next? It doesn't fix the economy.
But so I think a lot of people remember back in that moment, and of course you weren't running for president, but there's that one classic moment in the debate when they asked folks running for president on the Republican side, would you accept a deal that had 10 to 1 on tax cuts to tax increases, and all of them said they would not accept that. And if you're going to be holding press conferences outside of BAE or talking about what impact this fiscal cliff would have on defense contractors, even in your own district, and you didn't have it required some tax increases, is there a level of negotiation here, or are you just flat out going to vote against it?
No, I think it's an I gotcha question when it was posed to the candidates. The reality is Reagan tried this. You got the spending increases. You never got what was fully intended. And the idea was to cut taxes, make sure the economy grows, and then reduce spending. The reductions in spending never occur. So this notion that we should compromise and raise some taxes, it just doesn't make sense because there's a different philosophy, a different model that can work, and it's a pro-growth economic model. And when you look at the Ernst & Young study that says if you raise those rates and you lose 1 million jobs, where is the compromise? Where is the good compromise in that? So I think there's just a difference of ideology here. I think Democrats, more liberal Democrats, do want to raise taxes. I just disagree with that notion.
Of course, you know, when it came to this big vote that created this super committee, that created this situation we're in, you voted for this. Paul Ryan did.
An act of compromise.
Right. Well, but Paul Ryan did not. Tom Coburn did. Do you regret that vote, given the situation we could be facing with defense contractors and spending?
Sequestration was a mistake. The president asked for it. Harry Reid, the majority leader in the Senate, asked for it. And the House begrudgingly went along with it because we didn't think it was a good idea. And it's turned out to be a bad idea. So we have worked day and night to try to find a solution to it. We have again, passed a menu of replacement cuts. You see many senators, including Senator Ayotte, Senator McCain, Senator Graham, traveling around the country, making sure people understand what it means not just for our readiness, but also for our economy. So I am, though, very confident that we will get a compromise passed. But it's not going to be the compromise that the Democrats in the Senate want. What they want, and what they're talking about in Washington, is raising the top two rates in exchange for sequestration replacement cuts. That is just bad policy.
This week, the campaign started getting a little bit more heated. The DCCC, the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, started to air an ad against you. Let's take a quick look at it.
I've got a problem with Frank Guinta.
Frank Guinta wants to put the government in charge of women's medical decisions.
Frank Guinta will let the government decide, not women and their doctors.
Not women and their doctors.
What do you think of that ad?
Well, I'm not sure how it is reflective of the issues that people are concerned about, jobs and economy. But if that's what the DCCC wants to run on behalf of my opponent and continue to attack me, that's up to them. That's their strategy. I'm going to continue to focus on solutions. I'm going to continue to focus on policy. And I'll make sure that this election is about what I've been able to accomplish on behalf of the people of New Hampshire versus what my opponent did. And the reality, my opponent talked about raising taxes. She has voted for an $800 billion stimulus. She voted for the Affordable Care Act. All the things that people in New Hampshire voted out in 2010 are the things that she continues to talk about and support. So nothing has changed with my opponent. I think I give people a different alternative, a different perspective, and a more focus and attention on jobs and economy, which is where I think people want their representative to focus.
Of course, we have a new snapshot in this race. So a poll come out this week shows you down 11 points to Carol Shea Porter. It's a loss of 9. What's going on in this race?
I think the poll's wrong. Quite frankly. I think most people don't put a lot of stock in polls, period, regardless of whether you're up or down. It's a very volatile environment when you're in a presidential cycle. It's very hard to figure out who's going to come out and vote, where the energy is. The reality, you run strong, effective campaigns because you want to continue to represent people in the state. And that's what we're doing. We're running a strong, effective campaign focusing on issues. There's other polls that show me 51-43 that were released this week in the lead. The bottom line is the poll that matters is on Election Day, and that's the one you work toward.
There's been a lot of concerns about some Republicans I've been talking to about what Mitt Romney is going to do in New Hampshire and how will that impact folks down the ballot. Is this something you're thinking about?
Well, we talk to the different campaigns all the time. I think President Romney's campaign is very focused on their ground game. I see it. I think that's important in New Hampshire. I think it's important to go talk to voters face to face. I continue to do that personally. Our campaign does. We've been going door to door for several months now. Periodically, I do it even when I'm not running for election, because you like to go into a neighborhood and just talk with what are on the people's minds. But President Romney, I think, at the end of the day...
Governor still. I was going to get you with one of them. But
I apologize. Governor Romney, I think, is well known in this state. I think it is a tight race. And I think it will be a tight election evening here in New Hampshire for the presidential and around the country.
Is there a turning point, you think, in the next 30-some days in the race that's going to lead your race to break one way or the other?
Well, you always want a moment in a campaign where there's clear definition when people are focusing and attending to the actual campaign. You got to remember, the candidates are in these races. It means everything to them. But everyone else that has a regular life, just like we have to do. We're picking up the kids after school. We're bringing them to soccer practice. My daughter's got a game. She's got her practices on Wednesdays and her games on Saturdays. We're trying to run around just like everybody else. The reality, I think, is the connectivity and the connection and the manner in which you represent people, more likely than not, will get you over the finish line and earn you a second term.
All right. Thanks very much for Congressman Guinta for coming in. When we come back, Democratic challenger Carol Shea Porter will be here to make the case on why she believes she deserves her old seat back. Stay with us.